It's a conversation that's been heard around the world, and now it's making waves here at home and abroad. Video has emerged of candid comments between the Prime Minister discussing U.S. President Trump with other world leaders. This morning, Trudeau admitted that he was talking about Trump. Here's the Prime Minister.
Last night, I made a reference to the fact that there was an unscheduled press conference before my meeting with President Trump, and I was happy to take part of it, but it was certainly notable. And I've had a number of good conversations with the President over the course of this day and yesterday.
Trudeau says his remark about Trump aides showing surprise was about their reaction to Trump announcing that the next G7 would be held at Camp David. Trump, though, not mincing words in response to that. This morning, President Trump called Trudeau two-faced.
Well, he's two-faced. And honestly, with Trudeau, he's a nice guy. I find him to be a very nice guy. But, you know, the truth is that I called him out on the fact that he's not paying 2%. And I guess he's not very happy about it. I mean, you were there, a couple of you were there, and he's not paying 2%, and he should be paying 2%. It's Canada, they have money, and they should be paying 2%. So I called him out on that, and I'm sure he wasn't happy about it, but that's the way it is. Look, I'm representing the U.S., and he should be paying more than he's paying, and he understands that.
All right, with more, I want to bring in the host of Power Play, Don Martin. He's in Ottawa. Don, what do you make of all of this?
It was going so well yesterday, Marcia. You know, Trump and Trudeau looked like buddy-buddy. They were BFFs, and then Trudeau said what he said, and of course that gets embellished. Fox News was blowing it up on their network this morning, and Trudeau, as you know, Trump watches that religiously, so he felt he had to play pushback, and so what's really not much to do about nothing, really. Whether Trump had a 40-minute news conference or not is irrelevant to the relationship. Suddenly becomes a thorn in the side of what was a beautiful thing. So here we go. Back to, not quite back to where it was at the end of the G7, but certainly the goodwill seems to have evaporated somewhat.
Is this much ado about nothing, Don?
Yeah, I mean, whether Trump has a 40-minute news conference, you and I won't have any problem with him doing that because he tends to generate
so much
incredulous
news.
looks and news at every sentence. But and you know, Trudeau doesn't have as many news conferences as Trump, so we always like news conferences. But having said that, Trudeau is probably right to say, hey, I thought I was having a meeting with Trump and the news conference went longer than our meeting. So they're probably quite incredulous about it. And I'm not quite sure what Trump means by two-faced and related to that exchange, because all Trudeau said was he went for a long time, and apparently when he talked about aides' jaws falling on the floor, it had more to do with another issue, not the issue of whether Trump was talking too long before their meeting. So I suppose it'll blow over, but it just does put a little harder edge to this relationship at the end of a meeting that started off so well.
Do you think that the Prime Minister handled the questions about it well just a little while ago, Don?
Well, he was dodging and weaving for most of it, not wanting to address it. But, you know, he did finally say, yeah, I said something to those leaders about how long it went. But, you know, for goodness sakes, Marcia, this is a guy who's been born around cameras and microphones. He should have known there was cameras pointed at him, and he should have known mics are very sensitive these days and can pick up things at great distance. So I don't know what would prompt him to say anything that might be considered a slur at Donald Trump when those microphones and cameras are on. It's incredible that he didn't know what he was doing.
All right. Do you think then, last question, that this could have a real impact on the relationship between Canada and the United States right now?
Well, if so, it's not much of a relationship. This is just an offhanded quip by the Prime Minister, and just because he noted that the President likes to talk to reporters, that's not really grounds for a relationship. But it is a very important point we're at here. We are days away from the congressional window closing on whether we can get our free trade deal, revised free trade deal through Congress. We need to make sure Trump's guns are firing to get that pushed through as much as possible. And I'm not not sure this does anything to diminish the president's enthusiasm for it, but you kind of wanted it to be where it was yesterday at the end of that news avail, not the way it was today when Trump seemed to call off his final news conference in a bit of a huff over that viral video.
Yeah, and apparently on his way back home to Washington. Okay, Don Martin
Yep.
for us this morning. Don, thank you. Appreciate that.